hear that in the distance? Snarling and deep groans following along. When you then you hear knocking on your door. Don't be frightened. Ghouls and monsters are at your doorstep, but they're not there for you or your flesh. They're here to listen to the After Dark podcast Halloween special. Welcome back, guys, to the After Dark podcast Halloween special. Uh, Live right now in the afternoon. How are you guys? Hopefully, you guys are having a really great wetness day, which, you know, also is Halloween. So, first and foremost, happy Halloween, everybody. I totally butchered the intro. I totally did. I wrote the intro today this morning. Okay. I wrote the intro today this morning and I butchered it just like that. Oh my god. Just give me 1 second. To the There we go. Alright, so I did butcher the intro. You know what? I'll say it one more time, and hopefully this time I can read my own writing, because you know what's more terrifying than any ghouls and goblins out there tonight? Me not reading my own writing. It goes. Do you hear that in the distance? Snarling and deep groans following along. When you hear knocking on your door, don't be frightened. Ghouls and monsters are at your doorstep, but they're not here for you or your flesh. They're here to listen to the After Dark podcast Halloween special. There it is. I did not butcher it this time. Oh, God, I am so excited to have Halloween special today. I couldn't contain myself, and the only reason why I am doing this in the afternoon, California time, it's like around 12:02 right now, is because, who doesn't want to go trick-or-treating at night? Today's a very special day, and it's very windy outside, too. That's why, I have this background noise of the wind in the back. Anyway, stay safe, guys, today. If you guys are in school, stay in school, and, just stay safe. That's what I'm trying to say. So, we're going to begin this Halloween special with Halloween history, alright? So, we're over here in a website called Britannica.com, and, it was written by the editors of Encyclopedia Britannica. Last update was on October 9th, 2018. And it goes like this. Halloween, contraction of All Halloween Eve, holiday observed on October 31st, the evening before All Saints, or All Hallows Day. Celebration marks the day before the Western Christian feast of All Saints and initiates the season of All Hallow Tide, which lasts 3 days and concludes with All Souls Day. In much of Europe, I do apologize for that noise in the background. Not the bird. I'm talking about the cars. Okay, so in much of Europe and most of North America, observance of Halloween is largely non-religious. Halloween had its origins in the festival of Samhain among the Celtic and ancient Britain and Ireland. On the day corresponding to November 1st on contemporary calendars, the new year was believed to begin. That date was considered the beginning of winter and winter period, the date on which the herd were returned from pasture and land tenures was renewed. During the Samhain festival, the souls of those who have died were believed to return to visit their homes, and those who had died during the year were believed to journey onto the other world. People set bonfires on hilltops for relighting their heart fires from the winter and to frighten away evil spirits, and they sometimes wore masks and other disguises to avoid being recognized by the ghosts, though to be present. It was on those days that beings such as witches, hobgoblins, fairies, demons came to be associated with the day. The period was also thought to be favorable for divination on matters such as marriage, health, and death. More pronounced with death, I guess. When the Romans conquered the Celtics on the first century, they added their own festival for Feralia, okay? Commemorating the passing of the dead and of Pomona, the goddess of the harvest. Okay, this is a short article too. So, in the 7th century, Pope Boniface the Fourth established All Saints' Day, originally on May 13, and in the following centuries, perhaps in an effort to supplant the pagan holiday with a Christian observance. It was moved to November 1st, the evening before All Saints' Day became Holy or Hallowed Eve, and thus Halloween. By the end of the Middle Ages, the secular and the sacred days had merged. The Reformation essentially put on an end to the religious holiday amongst Protestants, although in Britain, especially Halloween continued to be celebrated as a secular holiday. Hold up, let me pause this. What's up with all these words? Jesus Christ. Where was that? Along with other festives, the celebration of Halloween was largely forbidden among the early American colonists, although in the 18th century there developed festivals that marked the harvest and incorporated elements of Halloween. When large numbers of immigrants, including the Irish, went to the United States, beginning in the mid-19th century, they took their Halloween customs with them, and in the 20th century, Halloween became one of the principles in the U.S. holiday, particularly among children. As a secular holiday, Halloween has come to be associated with a number of activities. In one of those practice of pulling usually harmless pranks. Celebrants wear masks and costumes for parties and for trick-or-treating, though to have derived from the British practice of allowing the poor to beg for food called soul cakes. Trick-or-treaters go from house to house with treats, the treat that they will pull a trick if you don't receive a treat. Usually candy. Halloween parties often includes games such as bobbing for apples, perhaps derived from the Roman celebration of Pomona. Along with skeletons and black cats, the holiday has incorporated scary things such as ghosts, witches, and vampires into celebration. Another symbol is the jack-o'-lantern, a hollowed-out pumpkin, originally a turnip, carved into a demonic face, lit with the candle inside. Since the mid-20th century, the United Nations Children's Fund, the UNICEF, has attempted to make the collection of money for its programs part of Halloween. Wow. Okay. Now that was interesting. Now let's go see what's the jack-o'-lantern all about. Let me see. It doesn't say. Too bad. But now we know the brief history of what today is known as Halloween. It was meant to be for festive, purposes. Now, from what I got in the little brief summary that we just read about Halloween, is that it's pretty much how in Mexico they have the Day of the Dead, El Dia de los Muertos, which is on November 2nd for the adults, and November 1st is said to be for the children. If unfortunately a children passes, on November 1st they're celebrated, and then on November 2nd it's for adults. I don't know why they have it separated, but hey, I guess it's a way to keep everything in order. But nevertheless, Halloween is here, and it's here to stay for a very, very long time. If you don't celebrate it, like I said before, I think Christmas is a lot far worse than Halloween itself, because hey, we don't want to talk about no crumpets, you know what I'm saying? Shit, Saint Nick, what are you doing, dude? Bringing in demons, yo! Like seriously, Saint Nick brings demons along with him in case a naughty children is present. Oh, yeah, and then even Saint Nick goes like, yeah, you could be the one of this. Oh God. Anyways, we're gonna start this off. We started off with a brief history of Halloween, but we're gonna get into some uh, Halloween stories. So we're here in this website called dailynebraskan.com with the article called "4 Chilling Horror Stories to Get You in the Halloween Mood," and it was published by Emma Coplin. I guess that's her name. That's how you pronounce her name. And it was updated 13 hours ago, which is the best. 13 hours ago, I was still sleeping. But then I woke up at 5 in the morning. And let me tell you guys, I am fighting with myself, trying to stay awake. One, two, I'm trying to fight with English, because I know English. And English apparently doesn't know me today because I'm super tired and I feel that my words are dragging, but we'll try to fight through it. So, let me see. The article begins with the header that says, "As you read, your skin crawls and chills down your spine. Even though you know the story is not real, small hints of doubt cloud your mind as you begin to see shapes creeping in the dark. In our day and age, scary stories have evolved and morphed into cautionary tales about what scares humanity the most. The unknown, sanity, loss, all concept that unites much of humanity in fear. With Halloween today, the following scary stories are sure to inspire that psychological itch in every guest. As at your festive bonfire." Now, if you guys can't hear, hopefully you guys can hear the background music. Well, not the music, but like the ambiance, yeah. And we left the campfire. So, first season of the After Dark podcast, we were at home with the pouring rain, and we were all invited to the same sleepover, right? Second season, rain stopped, and we decided to go outside in the dead of the night with the bonfire or with the campfire in front of us, with the sounds of crickets, of course. And today, in the After Dark podcast, a special Halloween special, we're out here, listening to birds in the middle of the suburban area, right? So I guess we can say like everybody's in school right now, and we're just there's no cars around us, which is perfect because we can hear the breeze and we can hear the wild birds just chirping away. So, with that being said, we're gonna first move on to the first story called Anis's Goat Man, and I do believe I have read this one, but I'll read it again. And this one is by Anonymous. So here we go. Originally posted on Creepypasta, Anis's Goat Man is a story that embodies the fear of the unknown. The story follows a group of teenagers staying in a cabin in the middle of the dark woods. Tanner, the main character, is the one who first notices things begin to go wrong. There's a creature out in the woods. Its presence is marked by the heavy smell of iron, low gurgling sounds, much like a goat, and the unrecognizable slack-jawed, wide-eyed, chittering woman that would only follow behind. Anyone who split away from the group continues cautionarily creeping closer. From the safety of the cabin, the group looks like they survived, but that's when Tanner notices the number of people in the room. He's changing. With horror, he looks in the bathroom to see the window, screen, scratched out. Whatever the creature was, it had gotten in. So, the Goat Man, okay, this one's kind of different. Though the one that we read was about the Goat Man Bridge, and it pretty much is, what it stands, So I do apologize for the noise in the background, aside from the birds chirping and the wind blowing, Anyways, so the Goat Man Bridge was pretty much about what it states: a goat-like creature who look humanoid would be at a so it'll be technically like the like that one goblin that would stay in the bridge, right? Like you won't cross the bridge unless you come on, answer the riddle correctly, I guess. But this time, there's no riddle, and everything is death. Okay, so so I paused it for a bit because it was getting way too loud. But yes, that is it, and there goes the noise. The next story is called a Russian sleep experiment, but we already know what that is, so we don't really need to go through with it. But we will definitely go to this next one called the Wendigo Legend, and it's also by Anonymous. If I knew about the Wendigo, I would also want to go anonymous. 'Cause, stories not of any specific occurrence, but a string of stories linked to a deadly legend. In upper regions of northern woods in Minnesota, there's supposedly a monster, a vicious creature with an appetite for human flesh. The Wendigo has haunted the dreams of Native American tribes for centuries. As the legend goes, whenever a human turns into cannibalism to survive a tough winter, a Wendigo is created. They lose their humanity and become a creature believed to have glowing eyes, yellowish skin, and matted hair. They are supposedly very tall and their limbs grow very long. Wendigos are even ever driven by an intense hunger for human flesh. According to the legend, Native Americans of the region actively believed in and hunted Wendigos. One hunter in particular was a Native American from the Cree tribes named Jack Fiddler. He came to have killed 14 other creatures in his lifetime and was sentenced to imprisonment at the age of 87 for killing a woman who he claimed was becoming a Wendigo. There are many stories of the Wendigo, and over the years, there have been dozens of supposed sightings of the creature. Wow. I mean, Wendigo. Like I told you guys before, I love Native Americans. I love the culture and everything. I don't like their stories because they creep me out so much. Um, ooh, there is another. There's a link, right? And these words are tiny. There's a link within the Wendigo story that says, more about the Wendigo. So, let me see. Oof, yeah, this is too much. But yes, people, we don't know if our neighbors and outside, we have Wendigos all around us. So be careful. Be careful who you hang out with. I don't trust that. But yes, the Wendigo. Oof. Now, aside from the Wendigo, there's also shapeshifters. Um, you know, you don't want to mess with them too because the shapeshifter could be your dog, or no, they're called skinwalkers. My bad. The skinwalker could be a dog, could be a cat, could be the birds we're hearing in the background, and we will never know until they strike. So let's keep our eyes open this Halloween and look around. How many times have I said it in the outro from season 1 and 2? We may never know who or what is lurking out in the dark, after dark. So let's continue with another story called The Red Cap. And this one is by Carrie Va. Va? Va? I don't know. Va. Carrie. Thank you, Carrie. Most of us think of fairies as happy, gentle, mythical creatures. But in Red Cap by Carrie Va, a certain type of fairy called the Red Cap exposes how terrifying of a creature fairies can be. The story thickens when a little girl is stopped by a red cap in the woods. She had been warned by many not to talk to the creatures in the forest, but she did anyway. The creature looked almost human, except its chest seemed hollow, and its skin was as pale as milk. The creature's claws stuck out like thorns from the fingertips, but the worst part of all was its con- conical conical cap. It was dark red, and it smelled of slaughter. The red cap keeps the little girl in the woods and tortures her with riddles, and it threatens to trap her to pull her under the ground, where he where he said she would be forced to dance at unholy revels for hundreds of years. Eventually, she escaped, but it becomes apparent that the red cap is not the only one of its kind out there. Hmm. I mean, let's see if we can read more about the red caps. These are interesting because I do believe I believe in urban legends, folklore, all that, and when it comes to fairies, y'all are not gonna believe me. I know you're not. Like 100%, you're gonna think, yo, Chiaki is burning up fumes and he is lying. I'm not lying. 100%. Okay, it's a story time. The personal story time. It's not scary, but I was skating one time. I think it was like around last year, and I was skating like around like in front of my house or in front of the apartments, right? And like all of a sudden, I got tired. I'm like, I'm gonna take a break, and then keep going, right? So like I took like a double take, I guess you can say, because I did see something out of the corner of my eye. It was like a shadow, but it looked bigger. Like it looked thinner than a bird, right? And it had like 6 limbs, so say like 2 legs, 2 arms, and the wings, right? So I'm all like, no way, did I just happen to see a fairy like behind me? I don't know what the hell is it doing. I don't know why would it be there, but So I went to the bush where I saw it dive head first, and of course it was gone. You know, y'all gotta believe me. Fairies are real, dude. Fairies, monsters, they're all real. And you know what's real? That the story of the red caps are freaking long. Uh, Let me see if we can find anything on Google about the red cap. Okay. Um, there is. It's a mythical creature. The red cap is a type of malevolent, murderous goblin found in border folklore. He is said to inhabit ruined castles along with Anglo-Scottish border, especially those places that were once the scene of Trinity and wicked deeds, and is known for soaking his cap in the blood of his victims. He's also known as the Red Comb and the Bloody Cap, of course. So, pretty much, their usual hangouts are in castles, and in woods, but they're not even fairies though. They're more like goblins then, just having like a beanie type thing that's always red. But you know, so its usual hangout is the castles, there. But I would believe that they would be appearing whenever there's a bunch of bloodshed, um, like murder and stuff like that. And so we gotta be careful. I mean, I believe it, and believe it if you guys want. Take lightly folklore and urban legends, but in the back of your mind, always make sure that you believe it, just in case they turn out to be real. You guys will be prepared for it. So anyways, those were the 4 stories. Well, we actually read 3 because we already read 1, the Russian sleep experiment. So this one, we're gonna go to another website called thenewyorker.com, and the header of the title of this whole blog, I guess. I don't know. I forgot. The title of this page is called "Happy Halloween: Scary Stories in the New Yorker," and it was published by the New Yorker yesterday, October 30th, 2018. So we are going to be reading some of these, and the header of this it goes, "We have been trying to frighten one another with stories since storytelling began. Fairy tales, ghost stories, and legends of monsters, demons, and gods, from the Minotaur to the Leviathan, from Count Dracula to Frankenstein's creature. All those tales addressed our fear of the unknown, of the possibilities of something other than ourselves, something inhuman, something post-human, something supernatural, might be more powerful than us, might be controlling the very world we live in, and yet making that fear palpable by pulling it into the realm of fiction, of fantasy, of untruth. We find a way to control it, to take charge of it, to make the fright, the goosebumps, the cold sweats, the racing pulse, pleasurable. Oh, I don't reach out. Let me reject the offer, New Yorker. Thank you though. A pop-up came out. A roller coaster that we know will eventually come to a stop when we get off. When better than Halloween, the time of year that imaginary ghosts and evil spirits roam free to wipe the cobwebs off some of our scariest stories from past issues. So, this one was by Deborah Traceman from the New Yorker, I believe. So, thank you, Deborah. I like that name, Deborah. So, we move along to the first story of the New Yorker, and this one is called "The Pink House" by Rebecca Curtis. And they're pretty short, right? I mean, we can read more if you want. Over dinner, they discussed politics and failed relationships. When moved on to the ghost stories, the guests were full, tipsy, and reluctant to go out into the rain. They heard about the boot steps and the trains of Old Virginia forts in North Carolina, gold rush era hotels where female guests woke with hand-shaped bruises around their necks. A ghost story about a man's life getting ruined and seen better moving forward. And let's read more about this. Um, wow. This is an actual story. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm talking about, like, New Yorker, stop, please. I don't want it. Oh, yeah, so if you guys want to read it, you know, the website's called New Yorker, and these are just like synopses of what's happening. So, the New Yorker, Culture Desk, Happy Halloween Scary Stories in the New Yorker, you know, so if you guys want to read the whole story, it's actually here. So, the first one's called The Pink House, and we already know what it's about. The second one's called Spiderweb by Mariana Enriquez. The blonde guy said that in Campo Viera, they told him a lot of other things about the bridge and the stream. That whole area is strange, he said. You see car headlights, and then the cars never come. Like they disappear down some road. But there's no drivable road. It's all jungle. Yeah, that sounds interesting. How long is this? Ew, it's a cockroach in the thing. The end is, yeah, wow, this long. Yeah, these are long, really long. Like, I'm talking about, like, sitting down long, and we don't have a lot of time, so we can't be reading these, unfortunately. But we'll have the New Yorker in our minds, in the back of our minds, for now. Let's try to move on to another one. What is this? So now picture yourself like this, you know. Don't picture yourself right now where you're at, like 2018. I'm talking about picture yourselves back in like the 1800s. You know what I'm saying? Well, you know, no little to no lights. You're sitting by the fireplace with your friends, family, and all of a sudden they dare you, or you know, the person that's right next to you to tell their story. How would you come across that? You know, like, or like somebody will probably get up their seats and just be like, "Hey, you guys, you know what? I want to be scared. So let's tell a scary story." I mean, maybe that's how it all began. You know, so let me see. This website is called TheGuardian.com, and the header of this article says, "Scary stories for Halloween, from haunting of Hill House to Matilda, spine-tingly tales to give you shivers." Now, we know what Matilda is, right? So, let me see. I guess this is just like an article of really famous book, I guess. Yeah. So, we're not going to read that. We want stories, damn it. We want really scary stories, so. Let's try to find more. I didn't know this was going to happen. Look at this. 11 more scary stories to make you wet your pants. Ooh. Sure, we'll read this one. I mean, why not? The website is our old friend Jezebel.com. And the header, of course, of the article is called 11 More Scary Stories to Make You Wet Your Pants. I don't want to subscribe, Jezebel. Thank you, though. Thank you for the nice thing. And it was by Madeleine Davies, I guess. And it was uploaded on the 31st of October 2015. Okay, here we go. The first story is called "Are You a Bad Ghost?" by Haley Catherine. I thought I would share a story of my dad. Our family has many stories where none of us can quite explain it. To non-skeptics, we believe that they are definitely clairvoyant to some degree. My parents tell me stories from when I was younger. I am not as in tune to it as they are, but the story of my dad is from his days growing up in a small town outside of Toronto. The boys in the story, many of them, now fathers and grandfathers, refuse to discuss the story unless they are all together, had a few beers, and the lights are all turned on. Other than that, it is not talked about. The house I'm going to refer to has two parts to the story. Number one, my dad and his friends had gathered in the basement of Jason's house. I have changed all the names for privacy. And we're doing what kids did at the time, smoking cigarette butts that they stole from the ashtray and playing with games and toys. One of the boys had found a Ouija board with little L's to do. They decided to not play with it. They began with silly starter questions like, if this girl at school like me, will I pass the English test? And then they decided to get more brave. Is there a ghost on here? Yes. The Ouija board let their hand to the answer. All the boys giggled, thinking it was just fantasy. Fantastic. Are you a nice ghost or a bad ghost? Yes. The Ouija board said back. Jason smacked the question asker in the back of the head, explaining that they need to ask a single question. Are you a nice ghost? No. The boy got quiet, and one of the lights in the basement let out a loud pop before the corner of the basement went dark. This is the mid-60s, and this home was pre-World War I. Light bulbs are going to pop. Are you a bad ghost? Yes. A second light popped in the opposite room. Only one light remained in the basement of the boy's head. What's her name? They watched as the board began spelling out letters, with one of the boys keeping track. William. It says William, the boy yelled out. They felt the flood of air surge through the room, and the next part none of them can explain. The air moved the Ouija board across the room, and all the boys stood up and backed across the room, staring at a lone mirror in the room. Only they didn't see the reflection. They saw an older man with dark black eyes and long beard and circular lenses staring back at them. They all started yelling, "Go away!" And the mirror slid off the wall and shattered before the last light popped. The boys went back upstairs and refused to play in Jason's basement ever again. Number 2. Flash forward to many years. Jason's mom had sold the house and moved across town, and Jason and my dad were left to pack up the home. They included the basement. My dad kept loading boxes, and people had been in and out all day. He got downstairs where a man was standing by a washboard, not doing anything, just standing. Naturally, he asked the man if he could lend a hand. The man stared back. He seemed to have a glowing look to him, but my dad chalked it up as the basement lights. The man said nothing, so my dad continued grabbing boxes and taking them upstairs. He saw Jason and told him that there was some weird old man downstairs. Jason was white as a sheet and said, "The movie truck isn't back. No one's here but us." They both went downstairs and saw the same figure, only it was slowly walking from corner to corner of the basement with its back turned. Excuse me, uh, who are you? Jason asked. Before the man began screaming, my dad described it as a deep yelling that got louder and higher pitched, like a kettle screeching on a hot stove with the lights flickering. Both of them couldn't find their feet and stood there. And suddenly it all at once stopped as soon as it started. They turned to look at each other and back to the figure. Only instead of being at the other end of the hall, it was standing right in front of them. They could smell something that remind them of sick, and could see every line of the man's face, but there were no eyes. They turned to run and let the movers return to do the rest of the work. They only shared single glance, and they were reminded of that night as children, when they are sure to when they're sure they saw the same face with black eyes. When Jason was unpacking boxes, he found an old photo album and flipped through it. He saw a picture he had never seen. His brother told him that that was his great uncle William, who had lived in the house a long time ago. William had gone crazy and drowned two of his three children. The daughter was with the mother. And when his great aunt Shirley came home, she found him in the basement where he had hung himself. But over his face were scratches where his eyes had been. There was no doubt in my mind they had seen William, and one of the reasons why Jason's mom finally decided to move was that in the bathroom, quite often, she would find water all over the bathroom, which she thought was part of the faulty plumbing, but the boys were sure that it was William. Uncle William, Jesus Christ, man, I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing, Uncle William? I mean, oof. I said it once and I'll say it one more time, and this time I really mean it. Like, I meant it back then, but this time I'm like 1,000% sure I mean it this time. Like, almost 2,000. It's over 9,000. It's Halloween. Please, whatever you guys do, do not pick up a Ouija board. Oh my God, how many times have I read stories about people picking up Ouija boards on Halloween, the sacred nights of the witches and the ghosts and goblins, and you guys messing around with Ouija boards are just, playing around with the Ouija board on a regular day is bad, but playing around with a Ouija board on Halloween, it's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. You ain't gonna do it. It's only gonna get worse. So, don't do it. Don't play with the Halloween thing. Don't play with the Halloween matches. You're gonna get hurt. This next one's called It Wanted Us Gone by Turd Ferguson. Turd Ferguson. That's his name. Okay. This is a story of a crazy haunting that took place over 9 to 10 years. So there's a ton of detail I could put into text. Every bit of it be its own haunted horror story. Just writing it gives me flashbacks of terror. In all seriousness, I used to laugh at a ghost hunter TV show, and I openly mocked the people who believed in ghosts. My husband was one of them. I thought that he was just a loose nut, but these things. Then, when I was pregnant, things began to happen to us. Well, me, in the house. All slowly and all very explainable at first. Cold draft, doors opening, lights turning on and off, footstep sounds, smells, shadowy figures. I was just so set in thinking that ghosts were not real, that for every moment, for every event that I had some kind of scientific explanation for it. After all, the house we bought was built in 1823 with the fieldstone foundation and remnants of an old knob and turning electricity. The floors weren't even level, and the walls had been cracked. So there had to be some shifting and settling going on. As the weirdness began to ramp up, I started running out of explanations. Footsteps in the snow and mud leading up to our house. But not walking away, finding things in and around our house that we didn't have, didn't buy, didn't put there, or wouldn't have put there because it made no sense. The bedroom door slammed shut with nobody touching it, the front door swinging wide open in the middle of the night, despite having been locked. After my baby was born, things turned terrifying. Things would be moved around the house, knives were thrown and stuck into our door. Tarot cards with terrifying meanings were found in my baby's crib pillow. My baby would be crying in his sleep every night between midnight and 1 a.m., but not waking up. We kept the baby in our bed between us because it felt safer than having him all alone in his crib. Upon waking up to my baby's cries, I would fall into his heavy, irresistible sleep. Yet I was fully conscious, as though I were not sleeping. When my husband would experience physical events, scratches, being pulled up out of bed, or having his arm pulled, I could hear him and I would feel the bed move from his movement. But no matter how hard I tried, I was unable to open my eyes or sit up until after the event was over. We had the house blessed. We had investigators come in. We had people pray, and we had psychics clear the space. The strange event stopped. The midnight crying, the sounds, the things appearing in our house, everything stopped really quickly. The investigators never told us what they heard on the recordings. I'm sure I never want to know, and I hope that whatever was haunting us was gone for good. Hauntings, like any other thing, is, inedible. We buy houses nowadays, and it's usually cheap, and we don't really pay attention, right? We just be like, okay, yeah, it was built on this year, but never really account for the consequences it might have, right? So when you buy a house, you go like, yeah, whatever. It's something years old. It's fine. It's totally fine. When all of a sudden it's not, and things get worse. Like, I'm talking about worse. So, oof. This is why I say don't play with the Ouija boards. Especially today. So, it's story time again, and this reminded me of one of the stories my mom used to tell me when she was younger. When she was younger and she was married to the dude, my grandpa. Um, she told me that one night it got like haunting around the house got bad, like to the point where she was her like the blanket she was covering herself with overnight, it would come off. Like somebody would like yank it out of her hands, and it got bad. It got bad to the point where they actually saw apparitions, and she would actually see something in front of her, and something just talking to her in a very deep, echoey voice. I mean, like I told you guys, I have heard something weird at 3 a.m. when I used to sleep late. And let me tell you, that scream that I heard was not human-like. I'm telling you this right now. It's not human-like, and I don't want to hear it again. So eventually they moved out, but before they moved out, she told me that one of my uncles actually saw whatever it was that was haunting them, and actually started to stutter, because I guess he was like drinking water at the time, and when like that thing popped up, just hit him, like, impact, and oof. We don't want to be in that situation. We don't want to see anything. We don't want to see anything out of the ordinary. Well, I mean, nothing is ordinary because today it is Halloween after all, and we like Halloween. We like Halloween and all its strange events. So here we go. We're moving on to the next one. It's called "Don't Wake Up" by Whatever Walked There. This ghost story isn't really mine, but it starts with me. Years ago, when I was younger and in better shape, I used to do some backpacking. Nothing terribly ambitious, but Every so often, I find a loop trail that could be done in a few days. Get a friend and head out. One weekend, my friend Kristen and I went to southern Ohio to backpack a 14 out of 15-mile loop trail. I don't know what that means. It was great. Very woody, very wooded, moderately strenuous. Not too many other people. There were some signs of past human habitations along the way. A broken down shack, a little old schoolhouse, and some sort of that sort of thing. We did it in 2 days, camping about halfway along the trail. I noticed though that on our way out, just a few miles from the trailhead, there was a beautiful spot to camp. If you had the time to make it a 3-day trip, there was just enough room for a single campsite right at the edge of a ravine, with the smooth out place for a tent and a stone fire ring already in place. Once I got home, I told my roommate at the time, my cousin Shelly, about the trail, including the pretty second night campsite. Let me drink some water because I feel my voice speaking. Okay. A year or so later, Shelly's half-sister Emma came to visit, and they decided to backpack the same loop trail. They, however, decided to make it in a 3-day trip, and spend the second night in that campsite that I told Shelly about. I only found out what happened that night. No one volunteered the information. Well, Shelly overheard me talking about the trail to some other friends, and she laughed and said, "Yeah, Emma says she's never hiking that trail ever again." When I surprised asked what happened, this is what Shelly told me. Apparently, during the second night, in absolute darkness that you can only get from sleeping in the woods, Emma woke up to a sound of a woman screaming right outside the tent. She was petrified and lay huddled in her sleeping bag, listening to to the sound of screams until they finally faded away. She then fell asleep again until she sort of woke up and opened her eyes and looked through the shadowy, barely there early morning light at the front of the tent tower the tent door. There was a little girl crouched there, looking at her, whispering, "Don't wake up. Don't wake up." The little girl faded, and Emma pulled her head down over her head and scrunched up in her sleeping bag until Shelly woke up. Having slept the night through quiet, and they could get out of it. Huh. Okay. So what happened is they went hiking. They went hiking and got to that rest stop, right? And what happened is that like the lady was screaming, and all of a sudden she saw a little girl that tells her not to wake up. Sure, we'll go with that. Okay? We'll go with that. Oh boy, I am really tired. I want to go to sleep all day, but we can't. Oh, somebody at the door. Give me 1 second. Okay, it was a package. Maybe a beheaded package. Who knows? But let's continue. I am awake, a little bit awake, so come on. There's a lot of interruptions today. Damn. So this one's called "The Face in the Ceiling" by Shimmeris. Oh boy, Shimmeris. When I was a child, we used to spend every summer at my aunt's and uncle's house in Michigan. It was a massive house that looked more like a castle, especially from the back. I did not know anything about the house history, but it gave me an uneasy feeling every time I walked in. The study was filled with secret storages, places, and places, and there were two big tunnels underneath the house that that you could only get into from a secret closet in the basement. As you enter the tunnel, you were greeted by an Ascensius lion fountain, okay, which would look like uh, which looked like it had worked in years ago. One tunnel led out to the stable, while others just led out to the ground. Every time I entered the house, I felt like a weight had been put on my chest. I really looked forward to seeing my cousins, but absolutely hated it so that we had to spend our nights in that house. The only room where I felt at ease was the family room, which I found out many years later was a new addition. The playroom was in the basement, and all the other kids used to play down there. While I often sat and cried in the stairs, the basement gave me the worst feeling of them all. The summer, one summer, my grandparents were also staying in the house. I woke up pretty early and followed the cat down the main floor. We started walking towards the basement and started into the other direction instead. But I decided to continue on since my grandparents were sleeping in one of the basement bedrooms. I quickly ran downstairs and past the playroom and onto the other bed. They were both mostly asleep, so I decided to lay down in between them instead of heading back upstairs. As I looked up at the ceiling, a small crack formed into a woman's smiling face. At first I thought it was my imagination, so I turned around and looked back at the ceiling, but the woman's face was still there. Sometimes it was her profile, and other times it was her head on. At one point did I felt threatened or unsafe. No, at no point did I feel threatened or unsafe. There was something very warm about her occasionally. Actually, a few years later, my aunt and uncle decided to put the house on the market, and it was sold. But a psychic instead insisted on visiting the house. Most of the people around the area were aware of the house history, but my aunt, uh, there comes big words, begrudgingly, begrudgingly agreed to have her come visit the house, and she arrived within the next few days. The psychic wandered around looking at the things and making sounds until she got to the basement. My aunt said she went completely pale and yelled. A woman was assaulted here and ran out of the house. Very professional. It was around this time that I learned that construction workers would hear sounds in the top floors, even when there was nobody in the house. A woman living in the house on the ground said that the stable light would come on and off in the middle of the night all the time. The security alarm also had a tendency to go off and on at random times. My uncle still lives in the house, so I'm not sure if I should reveal the history, even though it's pretty well known at the area. I will also say that it belongs to someone who handled the shady dealing from a very famous automobile manufacturer. Or Bugatti? Ferrari? Lamborghini? Come on, anyone? No one. Okay. But haunted housing and things. Oh my goodness. It is how you say, it is very awkward. It is, because I wouldn't want to be I wouldn't want to be staring at a woman's face while that I didn't know, while I slept. So that is very creepy. Let's move on to another story called "Are You Wearing Demonic Weave? Maybe You Should Pray Over It" by Hillary Crossley Cooker, and it was updated on the 3rd for 2016. Let me see. Okay, so maybe this is a story, I'm not too sure. But Memphis has a new crime trend. Thieves have been stealing their hair weave bundles, and these hair heists have resulted in the last 4 people being killed, according to a report by local station WNC Action News 5. Though some Tennesseans think that they've identified the source of the problem: cursed hair. Within the last 10 months, 18 beauty supply shops in around Memphis had been targeted, according to WMC Action News 5 and the robbery are making off with hair, not cash. Hair on the black market can go from $10 to $300 a pack, depending on the length and the quality. However, now some locals have decided that the money isn't the motive. It's the hair itself. It's haunted by evil spirits and it's making everyone crazy. WMC's video report featuring the YouTube confessional of a woman who believed there was a bad omen, and the woman whose hair the weave came from, which came on top of my head, and I took on her spirit. Okay. Others took to Facebook via the report where they discussed how to beat back the bad vibes possibly left in the purchased strands. One woman wrote, "Do you know the history of the hair's original owner? What type of spirit did that person have? You may be buying the person's hair and the demonic spirit." Another woman wrote, "Maybe the reason so many people are doing ungodly things has a lot to do with the fact that many of the purchases are made in other countries that worships false gods. Most weaves come from China, India, and other Asian countries, according to countries where religions like Hinduism and Islam have nothing to do with the apparently Christian concerns of those who wear demonic weave traditions, as well as Brazil. Dr. Bill Atkins, a local pastor at Greater Imani Cathedral of Faith, says that spirit objects aren't mentioned in the Bible, but are reported in the religions from Africa and West Indies. Okay, perhaps the best solution is to put whatever your personal juju is on whatever you buy, no matter your religion. Just like the woman who wrote, I personally pray over everything I purchase. You gotta do that. You gotta do what you gotta do." Wow. So, yeah, I mean, pray. If you buy used stuff, please, first of all, be careful. Right? Be careful. Like, yeah, the thrift stores may wash it, but you go home and you wash it again, just in case. We don't want no thing, and maybe sprinkle some holy water on it. Man, I mean, okay. So a lot of people know that I used to have long hair. Like, my hair would go past my shoulder blades at one point, and when I decided to cut my hair, I decided to donate my hair, to the cancer thing. I forgot what's it called, but they would take donated hair for the kids, right? And I don't mind that, I mean, I don't mind. I treat my hair right, I mean, I shampoo it, I condition it, I don't worship Satan, so I'm good. If you happen to have my hair on top of your head, just know I like reading horror stories, but never have done anything bad in my life, or anything like satanic bad and like murder bad. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so it's about that time. I tell you guys for one more time. Yes, I know I did say this last night, but I am gonna say it today with special precautions because, like I said, it is Halloween and people are gonna be running up and down the streets. People, please do not play with your phones, man. Don't play with your phones. Put them things away. Pay attention to the road. Kids are crossing the street, sometimes wearing masks, a big old mask over their head that they can barely see through two little eye holes. If they can't pay attention, you gotta be ready to step on the brakes, man. Step on the brakes and don't get mad at the kids, dude. Come on, because you're partially at fault if you don't see them. If you don't see their humongous heads from like a block away, it's your fault too, because either you're not paying attention or you're playing around with either your phone or somebody else that's with you. Dude, come on. Don't get mad at people that they're crossing the streets and you can't see them from a block away. Alright, so please don't play with your phones while driving. Don't smoke and drive. Don't drink and drive. And I guess for today, don't eat candy and drive, because that also gets, I know it's delicious. I like candy too, But the wrappers, and like if you're eating the lollipops, the sticks can get in your way. Just don't do it. Just wait until I get home. Trust me. Like, yes, I know. It's gonna be like the McDonald's fries. You cannot go. Uh, you cannot go 10 minutes without eating a fry. Come on, have some self restraint and some self power, and tell yourself, hey, I'm gonna wait until I get home, because trust me, they taste better when you're at the comfort of your home and not in the middle of the road driving. So everything tastes better when you're safe and alive. Okay, so trust me. I know, I know. But yes, so please, people, this Halloween today, don't play with your phone and drive. Don't text and drive. Don't drink and drive. Don't smoke and drive. If you're coming from a party, do not drive or being wasted. It's also bad. Please. Not only will you get a ticket, but along the way, you may never know who you're gonna hit with your car. So please, have a designated driver. All right, that's all I'm saying. Don't, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm posting this live stream, this podcast earlier because I myself don't want to, catch myself some candy. And I'm gonna walk. All right, I'm gonna walk, and please, just stay safe. Right, stay safe, and don't do anything with your phone. So, okay, so we're gonna go with another 8 more terrifying tales to get you through the Halloween. And this one was published by Madeline. Oh, Madeline Davis again. Madeline. I like that name. Madeline. Madeline? Maybe? Yeah. Okay. And it was published on the 10th, the 30th, 2017, so last year. So, here we go. We're not going to read them all because, it's about that time that we hit our quota. So here we go. Help Me by the Tall Blonde. My childhood home was in a small town in Indiana. It was a beautiful blue Dutch colonial home in a neighborhood lined with huge old pine trees. Our house had been built in the 1800s, and I've always had a sense that it was haunted. The neighborhood was filled with kids my age, and all the families got together for summer block parties. Pretty idyllic. The only bad thing about our neighborhood was that in the end of our cul-de-sac was the town's hospital. Our hospital kind of looked like a brick version of Hogwarts, maybe with less spires. It wasn't too bad, except that the parking lot and the entrance of the emergency room essentially backed up to several of 4 backyards. Every once in a while, we'd be woken up by an ambulance. In special occasions, a helicopter would land behind our house and fly a patient to Indianapolis or Cincinnati. My chair stuck. And the adults would bring little kids out in our jammies just to watch it land and take off. Kind of morbid, I realized. Other than the noise and bustle of emergency rooms, we rarely noticed the hospital. Sometimes we would tell ghost stories about the people who had died in the hospital and how they wandered our neighborhood in the afterlife. One night in early January, several inches of snow had fallen in a few hours. As a second grader, I was looking forward to the prospect of snowy days and stayed up later than normal. I finally zonked out and all was quiet. The snow even muffled the ambulance that came in and out that night. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I woke up, when you heard something in your sleep and then wakes you up? It was one of those instances. I sat up, but heard nothing at first. I didn't see any lights from my under my parents' bedroom's door, so I knew they were still sleeping. I laid back down to try to fall back asleep when the noises that had woke me up came again. My voice is going, come on, I can make it through this, I know I can. It's a noise. It's a noise that still haunts me. It's like a low moan, like someone quietly sobbing. I was perfectly still, trying to make sure I was hearing a human. Indeed, it was. The low moan turned into a sad sound, sing-songy, help me over and over. My mind instantly went to our neighborhood's ghost. To our neighborhood's ghost. I could tell it was coming from downstairs, so I snuck out of bed. My bedroom was at the top of our staircase and looked down. I looked down it. I could see right out the back of the door and out the back of the deck. I could see several inches of snow blowing up against the glass sliding door. The moaning continued, and I was convinced it was downstairs. I crept to the top of the carpeted stairs and crouched and hunched down to listen. As soon as I hunched down, I saw her. There was the face of a woman at her back door. Her hair was frozen from the snow, and she was wearing a hospital gown. Her tears were frozen on her cheeks. She was barefoot, and she was crying for help. She looked right through the door and up at me. Oh, I accidentally poked something. She looked through the door and up at me, and I froze. The moaning got louder, and I felt it push shatter the glass sliding door. She began to pull at at her gown and dressing in her arm. Wait. She began to pull at her gown and a dressing on her arms. When she finally looked away, I felt like I could move, and I bolted. I ran to my dad and woke him up crying that a neighborhood ghost was out in the snow. He ran up the stairs, saw the ghost, and immediately called 911. It turns out a patient in a dementia Alzheimer's wing had gotten out barefoot and lost, and she had found her way to her home. The odorless quickly came and got her. I don't know if she lived much longer after that. She had to have hypothermia. After that, we tried to avoid the hospital like if we didn't pay attention to it, its ghost could only find us. Even though my family moved from that home several years later, on a particularly cold snowy nights, I sometimes still dream of the poor woman. She may have not been a ghost, but she was haunted. Oof. I mean, you know, there is like when somebody knocks on your door, you want to feel safe, right? You would like, okay, but how would you know if that person has malevolent intent, or or has something, should be nice. That person's nice. We may never know, and these are the type of like situations where I'd be like, okay, you know what? You may never know if you're gonna like the game unless you buy it, or you may never know if you're gonna like that type of food unless you eat it. You may never know that person has mean or nice intentions unless you invite them in. But also, be precautious. Be very cautious. We'll read one more story, and this one is from Come In. No, it's called "Come In with Me" by Foxtrot Echo. Oh my God, yes! It's the most beautiful time of the year. So I grew up in a house with a lot of ghosts going on. I wrote about some of the last years or the years before, but I was buried pretty far down thread. Our house growing up was 400 years old, so a lot went on, but nothing too sinister. This event actually, okay, hold on. The grammar's kind of weird again. This event actually took place in my mom's new house, a little one-bed cottage actually built in the 80s. We'd been out for dinner, me, my mom, and my mom's husband. We had a couple of drinks, but nothing major, and headed back to the house. My mom and her husband headed to the bedroom, and I sat up on the sofa downstairs. The downstairs is really small, really just one room with the front door at one end and a semi-wall partition. I don't know how to pronounce that. And then straight to the kitchen. The stairs came down and in front of them. And in front of the front door. Hold up. This is weird. I mean, I'll read it. I have like 2 paragraphs left, but I'm telling y'all, there's something more scarier than grammar. Anyways, let's finish the story. Anyway, I'm laying in bed and I know I'm not sleeping because I got a fucking Justin Bieber earworm stuck in my head, but I'm just lying there dozing in the dark when I hear footsteps come down the stairs. Nothing weird about it. My mom's coming for a glass of water. She gets to the right. She gets to the right next to my bed and says, "It's really cold down here. You want to come with me? You want to come in with me?" Now this is weird because it's actually roasting in the house. I figured she's just being weird, so I kept my eyes closed to pretend to sleep. I'm lying there, uh, feigning sleep when it dawns on me. It wasn't my mom's voice. I didn't know who it was, but it wasn't her. Why would she ask me up to her room anyway? I'm 27 and her husband's there. Fuck. I lie there. I lie there and now with my heart racing, terrified to open my eyes, and I realize I never hear footsteps go back upstairs. Is it still here? I lie with my eyes screwed shut, terrified for about 20 minutes, or whoever knows how long. It felt like forever. Before I got up the courage to open my eyes, I lunge for the light switch. Nothing there. I run around turning all the lights downstairs. I must have made a noise, a right noise. Bezaf? Then my mom comes down the stairs for real. I ask her, "I'm very serious. Did you just come talk to me just now?" "Of course not," she said. Then I just burst into tears. What if I had opened my eyes? Where did it want me to go with it? The end. Now, this is a very interesting story. Just the grammar and the spelling. Oh my god. Foxtrot Echo, please. Don't do this to me. Do not do this to me, please. So, that was the last story for the Halloween special. You know what I mean? The scariest part was all the grammar errors that I had to go through. So, I do apologize for that. Anywho, this is really the last episode of the After Dark podcast for this year. Once again, I do apologize for the noise in the background. If you ever heard it, my dog screaming at the door, people shuffling dishes when they're not supposed to. It's just, uncontrollable. You know what I mean? I could always pause, I could always put mute and be like, "Hey, stop it. Or else." But, it is Halloween, so a few noises here and there won't hurt anybody. With that being said, guys, thank you guys for staying here with me. If you guys were in the live stream, I really do appreciate you guys. And if you guys are listening to this in the replay on YouTube, I appreciate you guys too. So you guys mean the world to me. Making one of my dreams come true. Me reading you guys stories, and you guys are the best. You guys are the best. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay? I'm trying not to choke up here. It's really hard not to. Okay. But yes, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so. The link is in the description right now. If you guys, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so. We can chat. Send pictures, send anything you guys want. I'll read them. If you guys play the games on Overwatch, I'd like to see them. Send that to me. If you guys want to play some Splatoon with me, send me a message, DM me. And I'll give you my friend code, and we'll play Splatoon. If you guys want me to play any of your Super Mario Maker levels, send them to me again. DM me, and I'll play them next time I live stream. So yeah. If you guys have any horror stories, scary stories, fables, urban legends, folklore, I guess you can send them to me on Instagram with the hashtag #TheAfterDarkPodcast, but we won't be reading them until next year. So keep them to yourself, or send them to me so they won't get lost. So send them to me over on Twitter. Also, if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, you can do so too. I am a digital artist and a traditional artist, and I normally post every Wednesday and Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. California time, but since it is October, I am partaking in the Inktober challenge, and this is the last day of it. and I'm not even done with my drawing yet. So after this, I am gonna be finished, so I can have fun later on at night. Um, you guys can see my work up until now, and maybe I'll go back into schedule. Like everything will go back to normal, like every Wednesday and Saturday I'll post, or maybe I'll even post 3 days a week now. I don't know yet. I don't know yet. Whatever my mind and my body feels like it, because, like I said, I've been tired lately, and it's now fun. It's no fun being tired because being tired sucks. But yeah, so, and if we hit 250 followers on Instagram, I will either do a live stream or I will do a video, depending on how everything goes, and I'll see I'll see what I can do, So because I don't think I can go, I don't think you can do a live stream on Instagram for like 2 hours long. I think it has like a set time or something. I don't know. But if it's a video, I'll speed it up. I'll either narrate it and answer any questions you guys have. If you guys have any questions on my drawing skills, send them over to me on Twitter. DM me or something, or like with the hashtag, the last hashtag. I don't know, but yes. So, guys, thank you guys so much for coming to the After Dark podcast, the Halloween special. I had fun today. I am tired as hell. I am really tired. I'm talking about like if I close my eyes to blink, I think I would be out cold for like the next hour or so. So I'm taping my eyes back, my eyelids up, so I won't fall asleep. So thank you guys for coming. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a really wonderful Halloween today. The day is still young, and the night is yet to come. Go forth, my ghouls and monsters, for today we stir up a fright. And for everyone else, you'll be saved from the tricks, just so long as you have the treats. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hopefully you guys have a really nice and safe Halloween tonight. And remember, when you're out there asking for treats at night, don't be scared to look over your shoulder or flash your light in a dark area, because like I always say, you may never know who or what can be lurking after dark. Peace out, everybody. Have a great, safe, and rememberable Halloween. This has been your host, Chiaki, signing off until next October, maybe. Peace out, everybody.